start the Zoom recording as well. All right, I'm going to start the webinar and start letting participants in.
If you're not speaking and you're one of the panelists, please mute. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining us, you are attending the PUSD 2021-22 Learning Options family meeting. So we will allow our participants to join the meeting. We have quite a few, so we're going to pause for a couple minutes while everybody joins, because we don't want people to miss the beginning of the session. So we're up to a few hundred, and I think many more are waiting to get in. So thank you, and bear with us. And thank you for your patience. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we're waiting for a couple minutes while all of the attendees who are coming into the Zoom meeting are slowly joining. We're watching the participant numbers climb. And so if you'll just bear with us for a couple minutes while everybody joins, so nobody has to miss the beginning of the meeting. But you are in the Zoom webinar for the PUSD 2021-22 Learning Options for the coming school year. And we'll get started in just a bit. Okay, it looks like the numbers are slowing down, but if you're just joining us, welcome and thank you for joining us to learn more about Poway Unified's 2021-22 learning options for the upcoming school year. My name's Christine Peck. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for the Poway Unified School District, and we have a panel of our PUSD staff who is here to share what the different learning options will look like for you. If you need Spanish translation, please click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Our interpreter, Rosario Hansen, is our translator tonight. And the link to the Spanish presentation slides will be placed in the chat. So the format for this meeting tonight, you can see the schedule for our presentation here, or our table of contents. So we'll begin with on-campus or full-day school for grades TK through 12. We had the most interest in that and most questions submitted around that. And then we'll move on to the Connect Academy, which is the virtual school for K through 8. And then Poway virtual courses for 9th through 12th graders. Our Poway Home Education Program or Homeschool Program for TK through 8th grade. And finally, our New Directions Independent Study Program, grades 6 through 12. You're welcome to stay for the entire meeting, or you can drop out after you hear the portion that you were interested in. Now, due to the large number of participants, we'll be using a Google form for you to submit your questions during each section. On each slide, you can see a QR code, which you can scan with your cell phone camera, and it'll take you right to the question form. Or you can type in that URL at the top right, bit.ly/PUSDlearn. And this QR code, as well as this link, will be on every presentation slide. So if something occurs to you in the middle of the slide or the presentation, you'll have an ability to submit your questions. Of course, we also took questions that you submitted in advance, and those were used to inform tonight's presentation. So when registration opens for continuing students or returning students on April 1st, families will be asked to make a selection for the 2021-22 school year in terms of what learning option they would prefer for their students. Any changes to your selection after April 30th will be addressed on a case-by-case basis due to staffing needs for all of our 39 schools and different programs, which need to be solidified by May so we can post our options and staffing for our own staff. So without further ado, we'll move on to our first option, which is on-campus full day with Ms. Carol Osborne, Associate Superintendent of Learning Support Services. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and share information about our learning options for next school year. So as Christine shared, we'll begin with our overview of what our plans for students returning for on-campus learning include, and this will be for TK through 12. We recognize that a number of you have questions about what will it look like returning to on-campus with a full day model, the protocols and procedures, protocols and procedures we'll have in place. So we'll highlight some of that for you tonight. We'll also provide details for you that we have available, because as we know, sometimes information changes. So we will provide information that we have at this time. And we do know that protocols could change as we've seen throughout the year as the COVID context changes. I also, before we get started about the Learning Day, I just want to share that our ESS and our ACES programs at elementary and middle will be returning with hours before and after school. So we will be returning to the pre-COVID hours so that there will be childcare provided at elementary and middle for both before school and after school. So here you can see an agenda, and each one of our presentations tonight will follow a similar agenda. For this one, for on campus, our section 4 is unique, but you'll see that we'll give you a brief overview or description, and then we'll talk about the learning structures, some of the program elements, and then for on campus, we'll talk about some of the health and safety protocols that will be in place. Other learning pathways will have something different. So I'm now going to turn this over to Mr. Dave Lemaster, Executive Director for Learning Support Services.
Thank you so much, Ms. Osborne. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. So we are very much looking forward to our return to a regular full day K through 12 and half day for our TK for students in the 2021-2022 school year. Students will be reacquainted with familiar classroom experiences, structures, and routines. At the elementary level, students will experience a recess break on the playground with peers and a lunch and recess at the lunch tables, and have access to sports equipment on the playground. At the secondary level, students will have passing period and lunch. We will be following the health and safety protocols that will be in place from the California Department of Public Health. Such mitigation strategies might be physically distancing, mask wearing, and hand washing. There will also be staff cleaning high-touch areas, and hand washing and hand sanitizing stations will remain on campus. The on-campus full day will be daily teacher and peer interactions 5 days per week. Now, to go a little bit further into the learning structures of the day, at our elementary schools, the school day will return to the pre-COVID bell schedules that we're all familiar with. If the elementary school had a time bank day, that schedule would resume. So for example, schools that start at 9 o'clock would dismiss at 3:10, and on their time bank days, their hours would be from 9 to 1:20. We do have a couple sites that do not have time banking days. A sample school schedule for a non-time banking day may be like 7:45 to 1:45. At the secondary level, learning schedules will resume as they were prior to going virtual, and teachers will be teaching in person from their classrooms. They will not be teaching concurrently, both in person and virtual at the same time. IEPs will be implemented as written, and IEP teams can convene to discuss any changes to goals, services, and accommodations accommodations as needed. The grading periods at secondary level will also remain the same as well. At elementary, we will continue with trimesters, and at the secondary, trimester and quarters will continue depending on which school your child attends. Next, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Ms. Kimmy Lottefeld, Executive Director of Learning Support Services, and she's going to share with you more about our program elements.
Hi, good evening, families, and welcome. So our on-campus program elements include opportunities for our students to be with their teachers and collaborate with their classmates. And learning will be inquiry-based, student-centered, and learner-driven. And students are going to have the voice and the choice over what and how they're learning. And together they'll work in group projects and collaborative learning. And we see our classrooms as communities of learners where students experience a sense of belonging and learn with and from each other. And that social emotional learning is really important, and it will be a key element to support our students. So next, let's talk about how teachers will use differentiated instructional approaches, which basically means that students will be learning in a whole group setting, small group, and work one-on-one with each other and with the teacher. And then also teachers are going to be integrating technology with our one-to-one devices to really personalize those learning pathways for students based on their instructional needs. And they'll do that through different playlists that they'll assign, as well as adaptive learning platforms like iReady. And students will be able to work at their own level and at their own pace to meet their learning goals. And let me share a little bit about our on-campus classrooms experiences. It's beyond what's happening in the classroom. You will continue to see our 5th grade band, recess and lunch, ASB for student opportunities in leadership, as well as our exploration in the STEM area of exploration at our elementary level. And then at the secondary level, our students will be able to experience associated student body experiences, our ASB, student government, opportunities for athletics, clubs, career technical education, the visual, performing arts, physical education, and electives, to name a few. And for both levels, students and staff will be able to deepen connections and enjoy these in-person experiences together. And next, I'd like to share with you our health and safety protocols. So health and safety will continue to be a top priority to ensure the well-being of our students and staff. We are currently looking into potentially reducing class sizes at specific levels, 4th and 5th grade and above, to allow for physical distancing. Mask wearing will be required if mandated by the state and local guidelines, and we will ensure physical distancing is followed based on the updated guidelines. In addition, we will have students and staff self-screen at home, and schools will continue to follow the CDPH guidelines for COVID positive individuals, contact tracing, and quarantining. Now, let's pause here and address some of the questions that have been coming in this evening. So Dave, I'm wondering what questions are coming in tonight regarding the on-campus learning experience?
The one that came up early was, what happens if a student needs to quarantine due to COVID exposure if they're in the in-person model?
So I know I can speak to elementary. This year, we have been creating at-home learning options so that we will be continuing to have those available. If a student should need to quarantine, we'll be able to utilize the bank of at-home learning, similar to what we used to use for OCIS when families would travel. We will have at-home learning options. So if they need to quarantine, and right now it's a 10-day quarantine. So if that should be the case, we would leverage the at-home learning activities that have been developed and built this year that students would access through Canvas. And then I believe for middle and high school, they would also be able to access learning through Canvas and through the assignments that teachers would provide.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
Another question came up was, will PUSD continue to mandate mask wearing on campus?
And just to reiterate, we are following all CDPH guidelines, so that right now it is mandatory, and should it continue to be mandatory, yes, we will continue to ensure that everyone is wearing a mask.
Thank you. That came up a couple times. And then another question was, if a student chooses a virtual option, but then is later vaccinated or is able to return, are they able to switch mid-year to come back to in-person?
Yes, we will be, and each one of our learning options will address this as well, but there will be, at the grading period, we ask that families stay with the option that they select until the end of a grading period, so we have continuity of assessment of learning for that grading period before we would have any changes or transitions to a different learning option.
I have a question that came in. Is the recommended physical distance 6 feet or 3 feet, and what will it be in PUSD classrooms?
So currently within our classrooms, it is 3 feet from center seat to center seat, and the outside is 6 feet. And people have asked, why is it 6 feet when we're outdoors? But because most of that is related that kids would be maybe eating outside. And so ensuring that students are 6 foot distancing when they remove their mask would be the practice that we believe would still be in place. We're not sure, but at this time, that's the information that we have. It would be 3 feet away from student to student in the classroom, and then outside when they're eating and masks are removed, we would want to have maintain that 6 foot distancing based on current guidelines.
Will parents be allowed on the school campus for drop-off and pickup like pre-COVID?
We certainly hope to have our parent volunteers back on our campuses because they add significant value. So we are hopeful that with the vaccination rates and the continued low case rates that we will be able to return to having parent volunteers on our campuses as well.
One question that's come up a couple times is, will students need to bring a Chromebook for in-person classes?
So we do, that will be determined by the teacher, but because we are now a one-to-one district, we will be integrating technology on campus as well. And so asking that students bring their charged Chromebook to campus. It may vary in some of our primary classes, but for most classes, we would expect that we are integrating technology on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. This is a two-part question. First of all, will in-person students be guaranteed that all their teachers will be in-person teaching? And then a follow-up question to that, will in-person teachers be required to be vaccinated?
So we expect teachers will be in person on campus. So yes, that's for the first question. We expect that to have our on-campus teachers will be in person teaching face-to-face as we did pre-COVID. And then the question about requiring, that is not something that we have authority to do. We have encouraged, we have made the information available, but that is a personal decision that as an employer, we are not able to mandate that.
I have another question that came in. With conditions changing so quickly during this pandemic, why are parents being asked to commit in April for an August start date?
That's a good question, and that there's a lot that goes into planning, and we need to make sure we have offered an early retirement, so we need to be hiring, we need to be staffing the various learning options. This past year when we had we went from 35 kids in our Poway home education program to over 600 kids in the Poway home education program. We moved staff, and that leaves gaps on campus. And so we want to make sure that we have time to provide teachers with choice as well, and that we're able to hire and staff the different learning options. And we will also be having new families come in. And so it's always changing, but to recruit, hire, and ensure that we have staffing in place for the various learning options, it takes that time that we are, so that's why we're planning ahead. If you change your mind before, if you know, we do ask that you choose during online registration. If you change your mind in June, we ask that you email your site principals and let them know of your change of mind prior to the end of June.
A couple of questions have come in about class size. Will class sizes be reduced?
Yes. That's thank you. I thought I explained. Yes, we are looking to reduce class size starting at 4th and 5th grade. We know that we've typically, the class cap has been 33 kids, and we want to try to reduce the number of kids in the upper grades starting at 4th and 5th grade. So we are hoping to be 31 students, or some number lower than 33, so that we can ensure that there is some physical distancing within the classroom. And then we'll be looking at our middle and high schools as well to think about some of the courses that have been high impact with over 35 kids. We'll be looking at how can we reduce those classes as well so that we can increase the physical distance. So that is one of our priorities.
Any other questions, team?
A couple questions have come in. What happens if there's an increase in cases in San Diego County? Will we go back to a virtual setting like we are in now, or for the that we're in right now, or will we stay in the in-person model?
So that's a good question, and I'm not sure my crystal ball, but what I do know is that our teachers and our school sites know how to shift and make that change if we need to go virtual. We've had our on-campus elementary. We haven't had the need at middle and high school, thank goodness, knock on wood, but that we have had some of our elementary classes that are on campus shift to virtual due to numbers of quarantine students, and that has been relatively seamless. And so thinking that our young students can do that, we would be positioned based on what we've learned through this past year to be able to make those shifts if needed.
Thank you. How are we doing on time?
I know that this particular topic had the most interest and the most questions, so I just want to make sure we get to all the questions submitted before moving on. Again, a reminder, as we move along in the presentation, I put the link in the chat, but you can submit questions via the Google form or by scanning the QR code in the upper right-hand corner of every presentation slide. And that's how you can submit questions. Just due to the number of people in here, we can't enable the chat. It would be really hard to monitor. So we found that during the first meeting, if you submit your questions this way, we can still answer them real time. So
a question came up earlier about readjusting or being sensitive to some of the students who may need help who did not do as well during this time of virtual learning. So what plans or what systems are we putting in place to help support students who are returning for in-person instruction who may have struggled during virtual?
And I think that's a critical piece. And I think that we expect our, we talk about differentiation, but we focus on planning based on standards, but anchored in what our students' needs are. And so we plan forward from standards and backward from student needs. And so we want to make sure that we are really looking at meeting our students where they are. We will also be offering some summer learning opportunities for students that are significantly below grade level, or as well as some enrichment opportunities this summer. So we will be working with our teachers that we meet our students where they are and provide learning opportunities and leverage the instructional minutes that we have with students to ensure that we are meeting them where they are and helping to advance them as needed.
Excellent.
following up on that, Ms. Osborne, can you address the need for mental health services or increasing social emotional needs for our students who've been, isolated for so long and then coming back in person?
Absolutely. And that was something that we heard loud and clear through our thought exchange for LCAP. And so as we are developing our plans for our LCAP funds, as well as funds that are for supporting on-campus students, we are making that a priority to look at our counseling, the number of counseling days available at elementary, our counseling ratios at middle and high school, and it is our top priority. We are very hopeful that we will be able to increase access to counseling at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. We're also considering social workers at the high school level. So we know that our students have needs, and we want to be in a position to be able to meet their needs.
Excellent. One question that's come up a couple of times for in-person students, they're going to be in a classroom with a teacher they will not be in a classroom with a teacher who's teaching virtually. So I'd like to speak to that real quick. The norm will be that the teachers will not be teaching virtually at the same time. However, there may be a few cases where teachers are offering courses that are unique at a particular site, especially I'm thinking at the high schools, where that might be something that they could do so that they could broaden out the scope of the course that they're offering to other students in other schools. But the norm would be that the teacher would not be teaching virtually at the same time as teaching their in-person students. So just to be clear on that.
An example of that we talked about recently was if we were able to offer Mandarin.
Correct.
It's currently a sections that we have at Del Norte High School. But if there were other high schools, Westview has an interest that maybe we could expand that class by having students access it virtual through a concurrent model. So we want to, again, as I said earlier, leverage what we've learned and try to continue to provide access to learning opportunities for our students, and not have limitations of the brick and mortar walls of a campus, but that we can also continue to expand.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to our next learning option topic, and that is Connect Academy, which is a virtual school for kindergarten through 8th graders. And leading that discussion will be Dr. Jennifer Burks, our Associate Superintendent of Technology and Innovation. Dr. Burks?
Good evening and welcome. My name is Dr. Jennifer Burks, and I'm the Associate Superintendent of Technology and Innovation. Joining me to help share about Connect Academy is Mike Gizzo, one of our educational technology coaches. As a reminder, if you have any questions, we encourage you to type them in the Google form using the QR link on each slide. Next slide, please. During this presentation, we will be going through the agenda shown here, covering the following topics: description, guiding principles, learning structure, program elements, family involvement, and then addressing some of the questions that have come in. Connect Academy is our new K-8 virtual school designed with an innovative approach to instruction by blending together the best elements of on-campus school and online education. The goal is to offer families a flexible environment that is both student-centered and future-focused. Connect Academy will operate as its own school. Many of our students and families have found success in a virtual learning environment, and Connect Academy is designed to meet the needs of families and students seeking a full-time virtual option. Next slide, please. Connect Academy is based on the following founding and guiding principles: student agency, which is defined as learning through activities that are meaningful and relevant to learners, driven by their interests, and giving students voice and choice in how they learn. The 6 C's, which include critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, communication, citizenship, and character education. Growth mindset, technology integration, and Connect Academy will have a computer science and digital arts focus. And now, Mr. Gizzo will share more information and details about Connect Academy.
Thank you. As Dr. Burke stated, Connect Academy is a new virtual school in Poway Unified School District, and it's different in structure and program elements from our current virtual learning experiences. The teaching staff will be comprised of highly qualified teachers who've received extensive professional development related to virtual teaching and who teach specifically at Connect Academy. Our learning structure is designed to blend together elements of in-person and virtual learning. Students will learn online through synchronous and asynchronous lessons. In order to allow for both online and offline learning at Connect Academy, students will be provided non-digital opportunities each day as well. Additionally, students will have the opportunity to collaborate with their peers and teachers through optional on-campus experiences. Connect Academy utilizes the same curriculum and assessment practices as our on-campus school sites. On this slide, you can see examples of curricular areas for elementary and middle school at Connect Academy. Teachers will also utilize adaptive learning platforms in order to personalize learning for their students. A program highlight for Connect Academy is the computer science and digital arts curriculum. These areas will be offered through integrated curriculum at both the elementary and middle school, with additional opportunities for elective experiences being explored. Both digital citizenship and social emotional learning are essential to the success and well-being of our students and will be integrated into Connect Academy at all levels. At Connect Academy, daily instruction is provided by the teacher. In addition to teacher instruction and support, family involvement and academic support are essential components to the success of Connect Academy students. Thanks. Families choose Connect Academy for multiple reasons. Connect Academy provides world-class instruction with highly qualified credentialed teachers who are carefully selected to provide students with a rigorous, student-centered learning experience. Modern technology and learning tools are used at Connect Academy. Students are issued district devices to access online curriculum. Teachers utilize consistent learning platforms as well as innovative instructional tools. Connect Academy meets the needs of independent learners who prefer a flexible learning environment while maintaining a unique opportunity for collaboration, engagement, and social interactions on campus. Finally, computer science and digital arts are integrated into the core curriculum, providing students with opportunities to explore coding, digital photography, graphic design, video production, and more. We believe that all students can be successful at Connect Academy. We think families should choose the learning option that they feel best fits their students' learning style and needs. At Connect Academy, we feel innovative learners who enjoy flexibility, are self-motivated, have a collaborative mindset, and are interested in being part of a new learning community will thrive. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Burks, and we are going to answer some of the questions that we've received on the Google form.
Thank you. So our first question, can students attend Connect Academy if they have an IEP? And to answer this first question, I'd like to have our Director of Special Education, Mrs. Tiffany King, here to provide that information.
Thank you, Dr. Burks. We definitely want to ensure that our students have as much access to these alternative options as possible. So Connect Academy may be considered as a placement option by your child's IEP team. The IEP team will need to meet and discuss your child's learning needs, goals, services, and accommodations, and determine if those can be met in this particular placement.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Our next question, question number 2, how is Connect Academy, I think one slide back, please. Thank you. How is Connect Academy different from an on-campus school experience? I'll go ahead and answer this one. The students learning at Connect Academy is equivalent in both quality and quantity to traditional classroom instruction. The main difference is that Connect Academy students have increased flexibility, personalization, and access to integrated computer science and digital arts curriculum. Next question. Question number 3, and I'm going to see Mr. Gizzo if you can answer this question for us. Is Connect Academy separate from a student's school of residence?
Yeah, so thanks. That's an important distinction. So yes, Connect Academy will operate as its own school. We've had many requests from families who found success in a virtual learning environment, and this school has been designed to meet the needs of students and families who are seeking a full-time virtual option.
Thank you. Next question. Question number 4. If I register at Connect Academy, can I switch back to my school of residence during the 2021-2022 school year? Registration, to answer this question, registration at Connect Academy is a commitment to joining a new learning community. If a family would like to return to their school of residence during the year, the placement change can take place at the upcoming grading period, pending space and availability. Next question. Thank you. Can my child return to his or her school of residence after the 2021-2022 school year? Mr. Gizzo?
Yes, so after the 21-22 school year, families will have the option to return to their school of residence for the 22-23 school year. A lot of twos, sorry.
Thank you. And we have a few questions that have come in that we want to see if we have a few minutes to answer. So let me go into the Google form, excuse me. If electing, Mr. Gizzo, if electing this learning option, will students get a teacher from their school of residence?
So since we're operating Connect Academy as its own school, PUSD teachers will be teaching at Connect Academy, but they're not going to be connected to what your original school of residence was. So teachers will be connected directly to Connect Academy.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, just some clarification, I think, on Connect Academy. Is this virtual option going to be taught with teachers from Poway, or is this a company that's being used to provide instruction?
So this is a Poway created, Poway designed school that we are developing to meet the needs of Poway families and utilizing Poway Unified teachers as well. We are not outsourcing to a company or anything like that for Connect Academy.
Great, thank you. I know a question that's come in is around where the location of the Connect Academy will take place. So I can either answer it or you're welcome to. If we have some information to share a little bit, it may not be the answer everybody's looking for right at the moment because there are some factors that we're still needing to explore. Will this be particularly on a particular campus? If so, do you happen to know where? Many questions of interest.
Sure. So I realize that the where is a question that everybody wants to know. At this time, unfortunately, we don't know what the end location, what the location will be, and how that might work out. We're looking at a centralized locations within the district boundaries. And a lot of that really is going to depend on enrollment and what we see in terms of enrollment. So that's kind of where we're at with location at this time.
But we are updating information on the website on a regular basis. So if you want to kind of follow the updates with Connect Academy, there is information on the webpage under the learning options where registration is being provided. So do we have a couple more minutes for questions? I see a couple more, but Ms. Peck, I just wasn't sure on our timing.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Gizzo, can you tell me just briefly, what's the difference or the main differences you will see between Connect Academy and the current remote learning that's taking place right now?
Okay, so I think the first is since Connect Academy is a school of its own. We'll be building a unique learning community for Connect Academy. So that's one thing that you'll see. The in-person opportunities that we discussed, having the option to come onto a campus, to collaborate with your peers, to receive instruction, to have office hours, tutorials, a small group instruction with the teacher. Those are all relatively unique to Connect Academy and different. And then, I think the integrated curriculum that's being designed related to computer science and digital arts, integrating those topics into core curriculum, to help promote some student agency and student choice in their learning. Those are unique factors as well.
Great. One other question, and then Ms. King, if you don't mind, I do have a question for you following. Oops, sorry, okay, Ms. King, can I go to you to ask this question? Students with a 504, would they be able to be part of the Connect Academy?
Well, we want to definitely be as inclusive as possible. So we would want to make sure that any accommodations that are listed in the 504 plan can be implemented at the Connect Academy. So the 504 team would want to gather and make sure that that plan can be implemented.
Great, thank you.
I have a common question that's come up around Connect Academy. Will Connect Academy students be able to do things like band or choir or other electives like that?
So when we look at those experiences, obviously our goal is to provide as many learning experiences as possible. Those do depend on enrollment and student interest. That's what kind of drives the decisions. But we'll be working with the school sites to find a way to offer those opportunities to students as much as possible.
Great. There's a question, are there any fees associated with Connect Academy?
No extra fees. This is it's another Poway unified school. So it's just an option for families.
Excellent. And then I think there was a question around, I think we answered it, but around sports, just as we shared around band and so forth of those activities. There's a question if students can play on a sports team, if there is one at their school.
Yeah, I mean, now we're looking at a K-8 option, so we'll keep that piece in mind, but we'll also be, any clubs or activities that you're used to having, whether they're, PTA run or parent run or school run at your current school of residence, that's something as we build a learning community, we're going to be building those programs as well.
Great. And the last question we'll take, because I know we need to move on to the next learning options. If you can just share, because I think this is an extremely important question, are there options for students to stay in Connect Academy for multi-grades, or is this temporarily in place for COVID?
That's a really important question. Thank you. This is a long-term solution for Poway Unified. It is not a COVID solution. We're building and designing the school to be here, as another option for students moving forward for as long as we see or can.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, team. And thank you to everyone listening in and asking questions. A reminder, if you have questions along the presentation, you can ask them by scanning that QR code in the upper right-hand corner or typing in that URL and submitting your question that way, and we can get them to you live. Also, the questions being asked will be collected as part of an FAQ that we'll post to our website along with this recording later. All right, moving on to the next learning option to learn about is the PBC or Poway virtual courses. And with that, we have, I think that's Kathleen Porter, our Executive Director in CTE and Adult and Alternative Education. Take it away, Ms. Porter.
Thank you very much, Christine, and good evening, families. As Christine said, I'm Kathleen Porter, and I'm an executive director who supports our district's career technical, adult, and alternative education programs. Our Director of Alternative Programs, Ms. Patty Hurt, and I are pleased to be able to tell you about the Poway virtual courses. We'll follow the same format used in the prior discussions, providing details on the program description, the learning structure, program elements, and the level of family involvement needed. At that time, we'll also be able to answer questions. If you're just joining us, I'd like to draw your attention to the QR code and link in the top left-hand corner of the slides. You'll be able to submit any questions you may have during the presentation using that link. Typical reasons students take PVC are to free up room in their schedules for other electives, for advancement, or just to experience online learning. Online courses have been available to high school students in Poway Unified School District since the early 2000s. A formal structure under the name of Poway Virtual Courses was established in 2010, and students are able to choose the Poway Virtual Courses when they complete their course request forms each year. What's new for the 21-22 school year is that we will be expanding PVC offerings in two ways. First, by adding additional courses, and second, by increasing capacity to serve students by opening additional sections of existing classes. Poway virtual courses are available to high school students in Poway Unified School District and are offered in a variety of subject areas. Middle school students are also able to take some of these courses for advanced math. Poway virtual courses are taught in addition to a student's in-person, on-campus learning or independent study schedule. All courses are taught by the same highly qualified teachers using our PUSD curriculum. Classes offered through PVC are online. Although when students log into the courses is asynchronous, courses have common start and end dates, and students are enrolled with a cohort of students from around the district. Course pacing and due dates for assignments and projects are determined by the teacher. Some courses require in-person meetings for labs to apply learnings. For example, in some science courses and career technical education courses, or for tutorial and office hours. In terms of program elements, there are a few things to note. Students remain attached to their school of residence, and so they're able to participate in sports and extracurricular activities. Students will be able to take classes on site or through independent study and through PVC at the same time. Classes offered through PVC meet the PUSD graduation, college entrance, and NCAA eligibility requirements. Students from across the district will be enrolled in the courses. And although most courses are offered on the trimester schedule, students from schools with year-round or quarter schedules may also enroll. This is a list of the courses we plan to offer through PVC next year. And again, all courses meet PUSD graduation and/or college entrance and NCAA eligibility requirements. We're continuing to expand and grow the list of course offerings. As I'm sure we can all attest after having lived through the past year, online learning works better for some students than for others. Students should possess self-discipline and time management skills in order to be able to meet the deadlines established within course start and end dates. Similar to on-campus classes, there are due dates for assignments throughout the courses that must be adhered to regularly. Students who do well in online courses are typically self-starters who prefer more flexibility in their daily schedules. This allows for anytime learning. Access to grades and student progress is available through Canvas. Now I'm going to switch to some of the questions that came in ahead of time. One is there a plan to allow a more hybrid approach to on-campus and virtual courses? So the answer to that question is yes, this is a hybrid option. PVC courses are taken in conjunction with courses students take at their school site or through New Directions, our independent study program. Another question that came in, is this a choice for the whole entire school year, or do students have an option to change each trimester? So this is an option that is trimester by trimester. Students can request to take grade level classes through PVC in 1, 2, or all 3 trimesters. Another question came in about what's the difference between Poway virtual courses and other options. So the distinguishing factors for Poway virtual courses are offered for grades 9 through 12. Courses have common start and end dates with due dates for assignments established by the teacher. Courses offered through PVC are taken in conjunction with courses a student takes at their school site or at New Directions, and the courses are fully online. Another question that came in was about AP courses. Will PVC offer AP courses? If so, which ones? At this time, no AP courses have been developed. However, we do have some in development that would be available in future years. So this is a perfect opportunity for that hybrid approach, because if a student wanted to take an AP course, they could take that AP course on their school site, and then they could take an online course through PVC. So the other question here is it possible to combine and blend options, for example, New Directions and PVC? And so the answer to that is yes, it is possible to combine some of these approaches. For example, students can take courses in multiple settings, on campus, in person, independent study, and PVC. So students wishing to customize those options can work with their school site counselor or with the alternative programs counselor to properly complete their course request forms. So now I think Patty's going to help me sort through the questions, and between the two of us, we will be able to answer them, I hope.
Ms. Porter, I have a couple while you guys are looking through the questions coming in. One was, just to clarify, are PVC courses fully asynchronous, or is there a live teaching element?
So the course itself is fully asynchronous, but it has a common start and end date, and it's led by the teacher. The only exception to that is going to be the courses that require a weekly lab. And those courses would be the science courses that have a lab component, or some of our CTE courses where, again, they have a lab component.
You talked about a hybrid option combining like on-campus APs with a couple PVC courses, but what if a family is doing PVC to strictly have a fully virtual option? Is that possible?
It is it is almost entirely optional for high school students to do a distance learning option. And that would be a combination. We could create a combination between PVC and independent study. And that would allow a student to be almost 100% online.
How can an 8th grader take virtual school courses?
Patty, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So we do have one class for our 8th graders, and it is an advanced math class. It's integrated math 2A, 2B, and they can take that course through the PVC program, and then they can start into the next course when they get into high school. And that course can either go on their transcript, because it is required by the UCs to have been taken, but you do not get high school credit for it. So you don't get actual 5 or 10 credits for it, but it can go on your transcript so that the UCs and colleges see it.
Thank you. Is that it?
What about PVC courses during the summer? If so, how can they locate those offerings?
So we do have PVC summer courses, and those courses can be accessed through your school site counselor.
Oh, and another really good question is, now that students already filled out and submitted their CRF with their class choices, will they have the opportunity to now choose these new classes?
That's a great question. We were actually just talking about the process to do that today. And so what we're going to do is create a Google form where families who have already submitted their CRF forms will be able to request to take a course through Poway Virtual Courses. That form will be available through your school site, and your school site will be sending those out to all of our high school families to make any changes that they needed to, and that'll come back. The due date for those is going to be April 23rd.
Thank you. And it's important to note, because we're gauging PVC interest that way, PVC will not be an option that you actually check during the online registration process, just to clarify.
Thank you, Christine.
And then can a student take a full course load at their home school and also take a PVC course in addition?
Yes, on a space available basis, students will be able to do that. So it's ideally you have your full load within the combination of settings. So either school site or PVC. But we do have students that want to accelerate, or students who want to make up credit. And so at times there are opportunities for students to take an additional course to their full load, and that is available.
Any other questions?
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll turn it back over to Christine now.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. It'll be a little bit like a ping pong match because I'll be sending it back to you soon anyway. The next learning option that we'll be going over with Ms. Porter and Ms. Hurt is the Poway Home Education Program, also known as homeschool. This is for TK through 8th students, and I will turn it over to Ms. Hurt and Ms. Porter.
Thank you, Christine, once again. So hello, families. If you're just joining us, I'm Kathleen Porter, and Ms. Patty Hurt and I will be talking to you a little bit about our Poway Home Education Program now. I'm going to let Patty take the lead on this. We will be, Lana, next slide, please. Once again, we're going to follow the same agenda that we have for the other presentations. We'll be providing details on the program description, the learning structure, program elements, and the level of family involvement needed. If you're just joining us, we'd like to call your attention to the QR code and the link in the top left-hand corner of the slide. You'll see that link on each of the subsequent slides, and you can use that to submit questions, and we'll be able to answer those questions in real time. And so I'd now like to turn things over to Ms. Hurt.
All right, thank you, Ms. Porter. Good evening, I'm Patty Hurt, Director of Alternative Programs. I'm excited to share our ever-growing homeschool program with you. Poway Home Education Program, which is also referred to as PHEP or FEP, is designed to guide parents who wish to teach their students at home. PUSD provides the support for students TK, which is transitional kindergarten, through 8th grade. For our homeschool families, we are able to provide curriculum, materials, and instructional assistance. To ensure the success of our FEP students, families are assigned to a PUSD PHEP teacher who will meet once a week to distribute materials, review student work, and support parent instruction. The learning structure for our home education program. When we speak of our homeschool, the provider could mean a parent, a legal guardian, or other responsible adult committed to providing student instruction. So what does the experience of a FEP family look like? A FEP family experience includes attending a regular weekly meeting with a designated FEP teacher. In this meeting, families will review work from the prior week and receive feedback. They will then be given the necessary supports and materials for the upcoming weeks. The family will work together at times that are best meet their family needs to complete and assess the materials assigned in preparation for the next scheduled meeting. Parents will also have access to a variety of optional work to meet their students' personal needs. With the joint effort of the PHEP teacher, families may customize the content of their assignments to best meet the interests of their students. Our program elements. Family meetings will be virtual with some opportunities to meet in person. Student instructional time is driven by what works best for the family to meet the completion due dates. Families are welcome to customize content while meeting standards assigned. FEP will hold optional parent nights to help parents learn instructional strategies and best practices. There's a heavy emphasis on English language arts, social studies, math, science, and physical education, with optional lessons in art and music. Periodically, FEP will hold small group sessions for those families who want social interaction with peers. Our family involvement. Family involvement is a necessary part of homeschool, as a responsible adult serves as the home teacher. The family responsibility, as bulleted in the slide, are to provide instruction, monitor work completion, assess student work, and meet regularly with the FEP teacher. While there can be some flexibility to the weekly meetings, families are responsible for ensuring that completed assignments are uploaded or turned in each week on the assigned day. So here are some questions that came in earlier that we can answer for you before we answer some of the questions that have come in tonight. What is the difference between Poway Home Education Program and the Connect Academy? I'll be happy to start this, and Mike, if you want to add anything to it, that'd be great. Our Poway Home Education Program, there won't be daily virtual lessons. There won't be Zooming lessons virtually with a teacher. Most of the teaching will be done at home by the parent, and the parent and the student will meet once a week with the teacher to go over the materials. But most of the instruction is up to the parent.
Thanks, Patty. And that's the most important differentiation between the two programs, is that, you know, with the Connect Academy, the instruction is provided by the teacher, whereas in home education is provided by the parent.
Yes. And then can my student participate in the home education program if they have an IEP? Just like with the any other program we have, the Connect Academy or our Poway virtual courses, we want to include all students in our programs. We just have to meet as a team to decide if all the needs and the goals can be met in this setting.
I have a couple, Ms. Hurt.
Okay.
Can Poway Home Education Program, or FEP, be chosen if we want to travel outside of San Diego? If so, in that case, how would we handle the weekly meetings with the teacher?
For our traveling families, we, as long as the work is turned in weekly and and there's no questions by the parents, we can make adjustments for the weekly meetings. We will have to meet at some time, but we can make arrangements for the weekly meetings to be elongated or come at different times. But the work does still have to be turned in on time.
The other question was, would a student maintain their placement in their school of residence if they chose FEP, or are they enrolled in FEP with the option to return?
They are still attached to their school site, but if they want to return in this next school year, in the same school year that they choose FEP, they can return at the grading period if there's room available at that school site. If they just really need to return to a in-person seating option, they would then we would then go around and look for other schools who might have an in-person option available. So we can't guarantee that they'll get back to their same school that year, but we will do our best if that is the option they choose.
Thank you. Can the curriculum for FEP be modified for GATE students in homeschool, or is it the same material as in person?
Like we said, we can customize the material with the help of the FEP teacher. The optional work that we were talking about are extensions that go above and beyond, or that do some remediation or in-time learning and tutoring for students. So there are different options for parents to choose from that are above and beyond what has to be done.
Patty, there's a question here. Can a sixth grader in FEP participate in band at their middle school campus?
If the middle school has room in that class, then we can allow them to take the class at band as long as it doesn't interfere with their time with their teacher, their appointment time with their teacher, or anything else that they're doing. If there's room in the class, we try to accommodate that the best we can.
And there's a question here, can parents choose curriculum different from the district curriculum?
If it meets our standards, yes, they can. But it all has to go through the FEP teacher. We don't take any curriculum that is one religion or one political view based, but we can mix and match the curriculum to meet our standards and to best fit the student and the family needs.
Perfect. Thank you. There's another question that I think you answered for traveling families, but maybe we just want to re-emphasize this. Are the weekly meetings in person, or can they be virtual as well?
Right now, most of our weekly meetings will be virtual, with options for those who really want to be in person, space to be in person. But if you're traveling, they definitely can be in person. They definitely can be virtual.
Thank you.
Are there opportunities for other homeschool students and families to connect?
Yes. So we do have some small groups that we'll put together for families to connect. And a lot of times the families do that on their own as well. But we do have small group interactions with the students so that they can get to know their peers and other people from either their school sites or other school sites.
What training or supports are available for parents who've never homeschooled before obviously this can be intimidating for people trying it
Oh,
for
yeah.
the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we learned a lot from this year and the needs of our parents who are doing this for the first time. So we have put together for next year some Teachers Teach Parents seminars for for parents to be able to be involved in, so that we can help them with the best practices and how to instruct in math and reading, which is a big proponent of some of our younger kids need. So we will be putting those things together for parents, and then they can always reach out and ask for extra help, as well as if their student needs some intervention help, we have that as well in our learning center and with some of our specialty employees that we have here.
Any more questions? All right, I think we covered them. If we can move on to our final learning option. This is the New Directions Independent Study option for 6th through 12th grade. And we'll stay with Ms. Hurd, I think.
Yep. So good evening again. I'm Patty Hurd, if you're just joining us. I'm the Director of Alternative Programs, and I'm pleased to be able to tell you about our independent study program, and we call this New Directions. I'll follow the same format used in the prior discussions, providing details on the program description, the learning structure, program elements, and the level of family involvement needed. If you're just joining us, I'd like to draw your attention to the QR code and link in the top left-hand corner of the slides. You're able to submit any questions you may have during the presentation using that link. New Directions is an independent study program for students in grades 6 through 12. New Directions was first created to allow high-performing athletes and actors the opportunity to engage in those areas during the day and do their schoolwork when it best fit their schedules. As time has progressed, the need for student flexibility has steadily increased, and New Directions has become the perfect fit for a growing number of students. This has resulted in a significant expansion of New Directions and other alternative programs. These new and growing opportunities allow all students to build the learning environment that best suits their academic and social emotional needs. The learning structure for New Directions. Students make regular visits to the New Directions location at Twin Peaks Center or join their teacher virtually. They will meet at least weekly with their teacher to review assignments from the prior week and receive assignments for the upcoming week. These regular visits help students stay connected and on track. New Directions provides a variety of instructional supports for students. During this week, students have the opportunity to attend tutorial time in the Learning Center to ensure the successful completion of their learning. In addition, math and science classes have in-person and virtual instructional time once or twice a week. Project-based learning is a key aspect of the program. This means that students have the opportunity to choose real-world and meaningful projects that meet course objectives and standards. If a student has an IEP, the IEP team will need to meet and discuss the learning needs, goals, and services and determine if they can be met in this placement. The program elements. It is expected for New Direction students to take one 4-week class at a time for a total of at least 6 classes per semester. With this class, students have the options to take an additional course, for example, a New Directions math or science class, or a class at the student's school site, or even a PVC course. New Direction students remain a part of their school of residence and can participate in extracurricular activities and clubs on their school sites. While independent study provides flexibility, students must complete work on time. If a student has a continued difficulty meeting deadlines, he or she may be counseled towards a different learning option. Using combination of courses offered through New Directions and the school site, students can meet all of their graduation and college entrance requirements. New Directions families become our home coaches, making sure students are putting in the time needed to complete the 20-hour study guide and any additional work that is due. Families and staff work together as a team to support and encourage each individual student to reach their individualized goals. Some of the questions that came up earlier was what curriculum is used. And in New Directions, we use the same curriculum that would be used on the school site campuses. All the curriculum is A through G approved and approved for the NCAA for eligibility. It is rigorous. The only difference is possibly the way some of the curriculum is assessed. We use a lot of project-based assessments and student choice in that matter. How many classes will a student take each semester in this learning option? So they can take anywhere from 6 to 8 classes a semester in this learning option, depending on how many they need or how many classes they're motivated to take at the time. Can the student meet with the teacher once a week via Zoom instead of in person? Yes, we will still have that option next year to be either virtual or in person. What do the in-person options look like? How often, how many students in the setting? So it's a little different for middle school than it is for high school when it comes to New Directions. Middle school in person, they meet in small groups like 2 or 3 students together with a teacher. They will have the normal social distancing that is required. Everyone will have masks on and everything will be sanitized appropriately. And then the math classes and science classes, they'll be between anywhere from 6 to 12 kids in those classes, once again in a larger setting and proper social distancing between kids and between the teachers.
Patty, there's some new questions that have come in. One is, if I select independent study during registration, which ends on April 30th, is it possible to switch from independent study to in-person before school starts if the COVID situation improves?
Yes. You before school starts, if you can reach out to your counselor and let them know that you want to be on the school site. If they have the seats for you, if they have the capacity to take you in, then yes, we can do that. In the high school, they're very, you have to meet the deadlines for being in a class on time. So our best bet would be do that as early as possible before school starts.
And there's a question about New Directions and AP courses.
As of this time, we do not offer AP courses in New Directions, but students are welcome to take AP courses on their site while taking a New Directions class as well.
And there's a question about which programs would be the most flexible for curriculum, thinking about students that might want to advance.
So New Directions is probably, you take the least amount of classes in New Directions. So we take anywhere between 12 and 16 classes a year in New Directions, where at some of the high schools you can take, 16 to 18 courses at the high school. So if you really want to advance, the systems at the high schools is a little faster.
Okay, and then there's a question about, does New Directions offer all the same courses as the on-campus option? So I think we've already addressed a little bit of the differences. Right. But you want to add any more to that?
Yeah, we don't offer all of them. We offer all the classes you would need to graduate and to apply for college, but we don't have the AP classes for advancement and some of the specialty classes that they have, like the career technical education classes or other arts that they have on the school site.
Mhm. I think that's all
Anything
the
else?
questions I see for new directions. Maybe Ms. Hurt, can you tell us how people would enroll?
Yeah, so to enroll in New Directions, you can reach out to your counselor at your school site and just tell them that you would like to enroll in New Directions for next year. And they will go ahead and send over to us that referral form. And then we will contact you before registration with a date and a time to come in and register and to get your books and to meet your teacher.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hurd and Ms. Porter. I think I wanted to send it over before we conclude to Ms. Osborne, because we had a few questions that were the most common. And for those of you who might have missed the beginning or come in midway through, we do have a few questions before we conclude. The first one was, Ms. Osborne, why do we have to make a selection in April during registration for an August start date?
So that's an important question, and we know that it's early and we know that things change. However, there are many aspects of planning and staffing for all of these different pathways, in addition to the fact that we are having an early retirement. So we will be hiring additional teachers and supporting some level of reduced class size in our upper grades. So we want to make sure that we are able to do all of our recruitment and staffing, allow teachers the opportunity to transfer if they are interested in these learning options as well. They become teaching options at that point. But we want to make sure that we have time to go through the process, and we have to post opportunities for teachers to apply. We have to go through interviews, and we want to make sure that we know preliminary numbers for each of these pathways so that we are staffed accordingly and not waiting until August, because that's very much a crunch time. And we are still hiring in August, but those are filling some of the gaps, but not for 39 schools and for different programs.
Thank you. The other common question is, how long is the commitment for a specific learning option?
So we're asking for a commitment for at least the grading period. And I know I saw questions about vaccinations and so on. So we want to make sure there's continuity of learning for our students with a consistent teacher or teachers. So that's why we're asking that stick with one of the options through a grading period, so that that coursework can be assessed and the students' grades can be included on the report card at elementary or on the transcript for middle and high school.
Thank you. And then the third question is, can a student change to a different learning option in the middle of the year or during the year?
Yes, if space allows. And so thinking about going from homeschool back to on campus, as Ms. Hurt described, you may go back to your homeschool, but if you have a third grader and third grade is full at that school, then we would not be able to accommodate that. But there may be an on-campus third grade at a neighboring school that we could have an on-campus spot. So it will be space allowed if seats are available. And then we will be able to look at nearby schools if it's not available at your home school, as well as then looking at options, because we do have to abide by the class size guidelines that we have agreed upon with our Poway Federation of Teachers in our contractual agreements.
Okay, any other questions that might have come in that we weren't able to get to? I know we're
I saw
trying to
earlier
stay
some
on time.
questions around vaccinations and questions about whether or not students will have access to vaccinations. Will the schools be used as a vaccination site? It seemed like it was a question that kind of popped up earlier on. I don't know that we touched on that one.
So vaccinations for students, and that I saw the question about will they be required like other vaccinations. That's not a Poway unified decision at this time. We would be waiting to see what the directions are from state, county, and CDC health departments making those recommendations, if those will be required for students going forward. But at this time, we do not have that information for students.
And we don't know if school sites will be places where they are administered either. So that's information we don't have.
Correct. We don't have that at this time.
We do know that the county and the state is opening vaccinations to 16 and over starting April 15th. So that's good to know. Anything else?
I would like to answer the question about the upcoming 8th graders. How do upcoming 8th graders enroll in the PVC for next year? They just need to reach out to their counselors and let them know that they would like to take the 8th grade PVC math class. And the counselors will then contact us and we'll get them started.
But reiterating your earlier point, while they can have that course on their transcript, it does not count towards their high school credit.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. And again, based on the questions we answered and some of those that we received, we hope to compile an FAQ for you, put that on the website. This meeting was recorded and live streamed on our YouTube page. And so if there's any point where you want to go back and look at what you might have missed, just go on YouTube and search Poway Unified Board of Education, and that's the channel where this was live streamed. And we'll also send it as a follow-up to attendees today. And on behalf of our PUSD team and Superintendent Phelps and the Board of Education, we just thank you, especially for you hardcore folks who stayed till the very end. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you giving us your time to learn more about the options and what's best for your student, your children. So we thank you once again, and have a good evening.
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone, for being here.
Thank you.